The X-Men are no strangers to welcoming new members into the fold. The rosters of their various teams have definitely swelled over the years from the original group of just 5. But now is the dawn of X. Along with all the excitement that comes with a relaunch, House of X and Powers of X have let us off the hook for knowing who was blue, gold, red, uncanny, or astonishing, and given us a new continuum of tales to focus on. But one thing will never change: the unrelenting misery of unfortunate events that regularly befall our heroes. Because historically a defining struggle faced by mutants of every alignment is that a lot of people want them dead. So, when the X-Men need help and most of the planet hates and or fears them, who do they call? The Avengers? Perhaps. The Defenders? Maybe. Power Pack? Well, they have on occasion asked a few villains to lend a hand, or miscellaneous appendage, changing up the roster and taking us on quite the journey of defied expectations. And that was the intro. Hello, I'm Sally from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 Marvel villains who became X-Men. Number 10. Pyro. The original St. John Allardyce is back. This gothic romance-writing fire-manipulating villain has been a keen member of different iterations of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants over the decades. However, during the events of Dream's End, just before the dreaded legacy virus could end him, he used his final moments to save the bigoted Senator Kelly from assassination, and his dying words to plead for an end to the violence, proving with a last act of valor that he wasn't such a bad guy after all. Some time passes, Necrosha, etc., and now the mutants have a sovereign nation that needs a way for mutant refugees to reach it safely. Here come the Marauders. They are the justice of the high seas with a convenient ship on which to stow away. A re-resurrected Pyro is fairly annoyed about being experimented back into existence and climbs aboard, ready to get up to trouble again. That is until he's roped into Captain Pride's new crew to fight on the side of good. Number 9. Dr. Nemesis. Right off the bat, Dr. Nemesis sounds like the name of a supervillain. However, Dr. Nemesis is actually James Bradley's vigilante name when he's fighting crime. When James was a villain, he went by the name Dr. Death, so if you thought Dr. Nemesis would have been a bit on the nose, then Dr. Death is even more blatant. In his stint as Dr. Death, Bradley worked with the Axis Force in World War II on Project Mojave, which involved using the Oscillotron to generate immense earthquakes across the west coast of the USA in an attempt to ruin their war efforts. While Bradley's ideals didn't align with the Nazi Party, his goal was to help remove the US from the war. Due to his scientific aptitude, his path has crossed with beasts on numerous occasions. Following House of M, the genius mutant joined with the X-Men to help investigate and understand what happened to their powers. So while his past is more than sketchy, Bradley seems to have mostly good intentions. Number 8. Apocalypse. Career prospects were limited for the young Egyptian En-Sabah, one of the first mutants ever born. Simply put, the villain formerly known as Apocalypse, and no, I don't know how to say his new name either, has been around for a bit, soaking up all that knee-jerk hatred many humans have for mutants and using his godlike powers against all types of existential threats. Unsurprisingly, his vast experience hasn't really put him in the mood to be nice. Since his first appearance back in 1968, his main aim has been to ensure only the strong will survive. Naturally, this has placed him squarely at odds with anyone else taking a more forgiving stance on life, be they human or mutant. However, events over the decades have unfolded in a way that has allowed Apocalypse a healthy outlet for his extreme Darwinian beliefs. Having joined the Quiet Council, he proposed the Crucible as a step in the process of restoring powers to powerless mutants, and he serves as a vital defender of the new mutant nation as a member of Excalibur. Number 7. Krakoa. Krakoa is the name of a sentient island which was first encountered by the X-Men when it trapped the original 4 members inside it. It is also responsible for murdering half of the initial rescue team and triggering the bereft Gabriel Summers to become the villain Vulcan. Luckily for our heroes, their second rescue attempt was successful and introduced us to the likes of Colossus, Storm, and Nightcrawler, who would go on to become fan favorites. Once Krakoa was defeated, it was assumed that would be the last we'd see of the living island. Nope, spores released by Krakoa on its way out into space meant several of its spawn have troubled the X-Men and their younger associates over the years. However, during Hoxpox, Krakoa original flavor returned and reabsorbed its remaining offspring, leading to Professor X making the effort to get to know the Titanic lifeform. Who would have thought that so much animosity could be fixed with "so"? Tell me about yourself. Naturally, when Professor Xavier led mutant kind away from the humans to form their own nation, what better safe haven could there be than a mutant island? Number 6. Toad. Toad is usually depicted as the weakest member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and that's because he usually is. Although his powers are quite undesirable, he has managed to use them creatively over the years, and as a result, Magneto saw something useful in him. Following the events of Schism, Toad asked to join Wolverine at the Jean Grey School, and in his desperation told him that he'd even settle for being their janitor. Go on then. From this point on, Toad's character development went from 0 to 100. He developed a crush on Husk, a young mutant teacher whose power to shed her skin and replace it with other materials was fluctuating negatively. As a result, she started to doubt herself and her abilities as a teacher. Toad took the time to help her come to terms with her appearance, and supported her so sincerely and genuinely that the pair started a brief romance. As with most good things for Toad, it wouldn't last long, and although he displayed courage, empathy, and repentance during his time at the school, he eventually left. Number 5. Emma Frost. Emma Grace Frost has joined and worked against the X-Men in intervals over the years. For instance, in Dark Reign, she joined Norman Osborn's Dark X-Men. Luckily, it was a ruse by herself and Namor, but my point is you can never be sure with Emma, who has been just as vindictive in the X-Men as she has been against them. As the former White Queen of the Hellfire Club and CEO of a Fortune 500 company, the X-Men have a long and valid history of distrusting her methods and motives. Shortly after manifesting her ability to transform into an unbreakable diamond, Emma joined the Xavier Institute to continue her questionable teaching career and developed deep feelings for Cyclops while there. The Terrigen crisis saw her love die, and Emma express her grief in perhaps not the healthiest of ways, seeing her ejected once more from the X-Men's good graces. But in the new sovereign nation of Krakoa, she has the opportunity to use her talents and learn from her past mistakes. The ex-ruler of the fallen nation of New Tian, she is well versed in the fragility of a fledgling nation and uses her skills as a successful CEO to oversee international trade relations as a member of the Quiet Council. Number 4. Rogue. The X-Men first encountered Rogue as a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Due to the manifestation of her powers at a young age, Rogue became angry, confused, and full of self-loathing. Taken in by Mystique, she was manipulated into a life of crime alongside her adopted mother, and would later be taken into the Brotherhood. After a run-in with Carol Danvers, she absorbed the then Ms. Marvel's powers and memories. Rogue then found her powers of absorption were getting a little out of hand, and she eventually turned to Professor X and his X-Men for help controlling them. Initially, the X-Men didn't want Rogue on the team because of her past, but Xavier vouched for her, and it appears to have been a sound decision. Since joining the X-Men, Rogue has become an excellent field leader under the mentoring of Wolverine, gone above and beyond numerous times, and has even led the Avengers Unity Squad. The Unity Squad has since disbanded, but Rogue finally married Gambit, and Ever the X-Man serves in another crucial role as a member of Excalibur. Number 3. Sabretooth. It goes without saying that Sabretooth has historically been a terrible person. Whether as part of the Brotherhood or working independently to make Wolverine's life a living hell, Victor Creed is the blueprint for a sadistic villain. Sabretooth briefly joined Rogue's X-Men team around the time they first encountered the Omega Sentinel Karima. Although still very much a villain, he was pumped full of nanobots to ensure he stayed in line. Following the events of Axis, Sabretooth is one of the individuals who had their personality swapped to its opposite, but did not have it restored once the events were resolved. As a result, he became a hero, putting in time as both an Avenger and an X-Man. Slowly, during his time on Old Man Logan's Weapon X team, his old tendencies have resurfaced, and back to his old self again, the Quiet Council has sentenced him to stasis within the bowels of their nation for the foreseeable future, making him their first irredeemable mutant. Only time will tell if he'll ever fight on the side of good again. Number 2. Namor. Part mutant and king of Atlantis, Namor has had a difficult history with being a villain. He was irreplaceable alongside Captain America in his efforts against the Axis forces in World War II, but he's also tried to drown entire cities and caused endless bother for Earth's super teams. He's hard to work with, he's egotistical, and he loves a gaudy waistcoat. During the events of Dark Reign, he joined Norman Osborn's Dark X-Men alongside Emma Frost. It would later be revealed the pair were working against Osborn internally. After Dark Reign, he would join the X-Men proper with the recommendation from Frost. Despite his ego and his unwavering duty to Atlantis, Namor has become someone the X-Men can depend on to help defend mutants against a world that both hates and fears them. Number 1. Magneto. Magneto needs little introduction, and not just because his name sums up his powers pretty well. He's tried to kill the X-Men, tried to kidnap the X-Men, ripped the adamantium out of Wolverine, and formed several iterations of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. There was even a period when his powers were greatly reduced, so he carried around a bag of metal nails and used them as crude bullets to help him hunt Nazis. Following the events of House of M, Magneto's been pretty decent to the X-Men. Given the largely reduced mutant population, he knows he must protect what little of his race that remains, regardless of how many times he's fought them in past battles. Now a full member of the X-Men, Magneto has joined his oldest frenemy Charles in running the mutants' promised land as a passionate and integral member of the Quiet Council. All together now. Magneto was right. So that was 10 Marvel villains who became X-Men. What other not-so-merry mutants have joined in on the X-Men's fight for good? Let us know what you come up with in the comments section below. Just want to mention that every like and subscribe is a welcome sight, and I'm sending good vibes to you all. With that, I've been Sally from WhatCulture.com, and you have been the audience, the whole audience, and a brilliant one at that. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you again soon.